sitting under, it says, "Prove me wrong." American comeback, prove me wrong. And there was a mic there, and he wanted students and people in the public to come up and debate with him one-on-one. That was the whole ethos of everything he was doing. And you've covered this so extensively, and we were both in Arizona leading up to this past presidential election, where you could just see on the ASU campus, you could just feel the energy of young students so much mobilized by Turning Point USA, which is Charlie Kirk's organization that helped get young people, particularly young boys and men, excited about politics. It became cool to wear the MAGA hat. And something that I think just speaks so much to that is the podcast that Governor Newsom did with Charlie Kirk just a few months ago. He had him on. They were engaging in political, back and forth. But Governor Newsom even said to Charlie Kirk, my son is a huge fan of yours and wanted to come meet you today. And I told him, you got to go to school.
Right.
But the fact that Governor Newsom's own son is a fan of Charlie Kirk, I think speaks to the influence he had with young men in this country.
Those Arizona college campuses, I remember talking to a few Bernie bros that were basically converted from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump because of Charlie Kirk and because of his work at Turning Point. Liz Kreutz, again, I will let you go back to trying to figure out what the latest in this ever-changing investigation is, but thank you so much for being here, and we'll check back with you in a bit.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. And let's bring in NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. Kelly, we just saw this post just a bit ago. The subject that was in custody has been released. What do we know here?
Sorry, Gada, you caught me mid-communication with sources here, so bear with us. Yes, this is a stunning turn of events. This has been a day marked by confusion, and clearly there is a very wide-ranging investigation happening now, but this is not following what we might typically see. So let me take us back to what was happening at the time of the event. After the shooting itself, of course, law enforcement is scanning the scene, looking for information. There was one older man who was taken into custody by local authorities. We had done some work on him, and he is not suspected in the shooting. He was charged with an obstruction case. Then we learn from official sources of a suspect being detained and believed to be involved in the shooting. That's how it was depicted to us through various sources in law enforcement and government. And then, of course, we had on the record the governor of Utah saying there was a person of interest in custody. Kash Patel, the FBI director, using his social media to refer to an individual as a subject. Other officials, other sources of ours were saying that they had confidence that the individual being held was someone they thought would be, in fact, the suspected shooter. So not just a witness, not just a material person, those kinds of things. We're trying to figure all of that out. Now, after some period of time where we believe there was an attempt at least to question that individual who was detained, now Kash Patel is saying that subject has been released. That suggests that they do not have any compelling evidence to hold that individual right now, because with a charge of this type, a murder and other potential crimes, it would be very difficult to let someone go without probable cause. So this is a surprising turn of events, and we will keep working our sources to try to find out more. Authorities had also said they could see a figure in dark clothing. Earlier, the university said they believe that the shooting took place from a rooftop. There is some grainy imagery that seems to show a figure moving along the rooftop. We don't know if that's the shooter. So hours after the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, sorry, my phone is ringing. Sources will have to hold on a second. Hours after the murder, we're still in a situation now where investigators may be in a manhunt situation, looking for more evidence, more information. There would be other things they could try to do in terms of assessing the wounds sustained by Charlie Kirk in his death that perhaps could give some indication of the type of weapon they're looking for, the range, that kind of thing. So the headline is there was a subject in custody. That subject has been released. Where are we? I don't really know, but we are pursuing this with our team, reaching out both on the ground in Utah and with federal officials as well.
Kelly, we really appreciate you clarifying all that. If we could just clarify one other thing, because
Sure.
by now a lot of people have probably already seen some other videos that have been circulating online. In the chaos that followed, there were videos of police handcuffing an elderly looking gentleman and then taking him out of that crowd, people yelling monster, monster, and screaming at this person, saying that that was the person that was the shooter in those videos. And those videos have gone super viral. Is he the one that was a person of interest that was released, or is he another person of interest that has been cleared?
Two individuals were taken into custody. The older gentleman who was seen on video is someone who was known to police, had some violations, criminal violations in his past, a person very active in the community, maybe an activist, if you could call it that, but someone that was known to authorities. For whatever reason, they detained that individual, and the governor and officials during the news conference referred to an obstruction charge. That could come about from someone not listening to direction from police or any number of things. That was one category. That was the kind of thing in this modern moment where video and imagery spreading wildly, people may have the wrong impression. So that's one category. Separate from that, officials had told us, and we know more of the details, but we have not reported it because it's not at a level where it meets our standards, but of an individual who was then detained and was being questioned, whether they responded to questioning or not, but there was an attempt to interrogate, to find information out. That was the person referred to as the subject, a much younger man. And now we know that that person who, as we understand it, was 25 years old, is 25 years old, was released. So we don't know where that leaves us, but it is surprising to think that authorities would release someone unless they felt that what they thought initially just doesn't bear it out, because they'd be able to hold a suspect for a period of time if they had credible evidence. So are we at square one? Are we starting over? I just don't know yet, but that's part of what we'll all be pursuing.
Yeah, and when we see just how many people were there when all of this happened, I mean, this is going to be quite the investigation. Kelly O'Donnell, really appreciate you clarifying all that for us, and we'll let you get back to your sources there. I do want to bring in retired FBI agent Rob D'Amico. Rob, the changes that we're seeing on the fly here are pretty astounding, and yet this is a crowd of thousands of people. Everybody goes running after that single shot goes off. You've got officers and you've got authorities saying that they think one of those shots came from the roof, meaning that, I mean, a sniper might have been on the roof and then was able to get away. How do you even start to investigate something like this when obviously you want to catch the killer before the trail goes cold, and yet you've got thousands of people to talk to and hundreds of pieces of video and pictures to sift through?
It is difficult. The biggest thing here is going to be cameras, because witnesses are going to be all over the place. Everyone's going to think that the shot came right from behind them, or they saw where it happened. But in a bowl like that, with all those buildings around, one shot going off, it's going to be heard differently from everybody as a witness. So everyone's going to think they know where it came from, and they're not, because it's just really, really hard to understand how the ricochet of sound goes through that atmosphere. So I think the witness statements are going to be less, when you're talking to them, are going to be less credible until you get their cameras and someone had a video. But the still cameras, the CCTs, the cameras that they're talking about, is really where they're going to be looking for something. If they think they know where the shot came from, if they think it came from that building, figuring out what cameras have access to that, have that in their line of view, what people were closer to that. But the problem is they all ran right after it. So it's really hard to gather. So you're going to have to be on the outside talking to people. You're going to have to put it out in public. Hey, if you're around this building, if you saw something, they've already done that. Bring your cameras in. They're setting up a link that you can send your video in, but that takes people to look at. So it's really, really tough that way. And this whole thing about, they're calling him a sniper. A sniper is a school-trained person, either police or military sniper. the shot here taken, it could have been someone that just has proficiency in long range shooting. It could be a hunter or someone who's practiced. So the term sniper is a bit different. From me, having been a sniper, I look at it this way, and I look at all the different things that are happening out there, the crosswinds, the tent, the fact that he was elevated and he hit him in the neck meant maybe he could not see with the tent because he was at a higher elevation. He could not see his head, or he, didn't have the right scope, the right settings on his scope. I look at things a bit differently.
Interesting.
But all those have to be taken into effect from the investigators.
No, I really appreciate that because, so many laymen, including myself, like you see that and you're like, wow, what a horrific shot. And it goes into his neck, which you would think is, might have been the target. And yet, if it was a classically trained sniper, you're saying things might have been differently. The other thing is he kept moving his head back and forth leading up to that. So whether a scope was used or not, like what kind of shot are we looking at here? Did this look amateur to you?
I wouldn't say amateur. Anytime you're taking a shot over 200, 250 yards into a person is not the easiest shot. And when you're looking at, what rifle was it? During the DC sniper case, we kept calling them snipers, and actually they weren't. And we knew that early on because they were taking a very easy mid-body shot at 100 yards, which is nothing for a sniper. And if you're looking at it that regard, we always kept saying that was misclassification. They were just shooting out of the trunk in type of a sniper hide, so to speak. This one, again, a good hunter can easily take that shot. When you're hunting deer, you're doing it 200, 250 yards. Utah has a lot of hunting, so I don't doubt that person has some obviously training. But are they a military type sniper? When you start looking at it and how you really deploy as a sniper, police sniper, military sniper is a lot different. But again, all those things that looking at, I've had a friend shot in the neck in Afghanistan. It went through and through. He got like 3 stitches in the front, like 7 in the back. Like it was a crazy lucky one. But I've seen that where a sniper's not going to be aiming at the neck to hit the carotid artery, which is what it appears was hit. And it could have come in from one side and out the other through the carotid. But definitely one carotid artery was hit by the amount of bleeding I saw. But a sniper is going to aim its center mass in the forehead. But a lot of things can happen to that round. So if he couldn't see it because of the tent, or if the wind blew it and it blew it off track a bit, or if he didn't have the scope set at the right yardage, he could have been off and then got a shot that unfortunately was a lucky shot that killed him.
And Rob, based on your expertise, why a single shot? Should we read into that at all, or was this just an effort to escape as quickly as possible?
I think probably an effort to escape as soon as possible. I think if he's looking through a scope, he saw the effects very quickly of the blood coming out, and he also could have because he slumped back to his left, I believe. He actually could have been then out of that area could have gone under the tent from where the sniper's position was. So there's a couple of things that happened, but most likely the shot went off and then he saw the amount of blood and then just knew he had a shot that was probably lethal. And frankly, the first time you do that, it's not the easiest thing to see through your scope. So it could have been he thought about it, and then the realism of what he did kind of came out, and he took pause, and then all the chaos happened.
Rob D'Amico, we always appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much. Let's get over to Gabe Gutierrez, who's at the White House right now. Gabe, can you talk to us a little bit about, Charlie Kirk's dynamic with President Trump? We saw that post from the president announcing his death. Many credit President Trump's election to Charlie Kirk and his work with the youth. What is the White House saying tonight?
Yeah, that's right. You're looking at that post on social media, Gotti. President Trump calling Charlie Kirk legendary, that no one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. It is an acknowledgement to what the president and top White House officials have been saying now for years, that Charlie Kirk has helped them start a MAGA youth movement, and many credit him with helping Donald Trump win his second term. Now, White House officials here, this has been so personal for them. This assassination really reminds them of the attempted killing of their boss a little bit more than a year ago in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I was in the West Wing earlier today, Gotti, just minutes after this news broke, and I saw senior White House officials seemingly devastated. The looks on their faces was one of shock. When asked for comment about what they thought about this, I had one official turn to me and say, "Not yet." And it was clear that this was not just a typical story that was unfolding. This was someone who they were very close to. Charlie Kirk was a constant presence here at the White House, even during Donald Trump's first term. So there's a profound sense of sadness and shock here at the White House, even as we head into the evening here. And the president ordering that flags be flown at half staff here, just over my shoulder here on the North Lawn. It really is just devastating for so many here at the White House. One other thing I would mention, just a little earlier this year during President Trump's inauguration, Charlie Kirk was in the Capitol Rotunda with a prime seat for that inauguration. Some even joke that he had a better seat than some members of Congress, and it was perhaps an acknowledgement that more so than some of those members of Congress, he probably played a larger role, likely played a larger role in getting President Trump elected. So just a devastating loss here, Gotti.
Yeah, we also saw on Capitol Hill Speaker Mike Johnson talking about this epidemic of political violence. We're seeing people like Elon Musk posting how the left is the party of murder. I mean, after something like this, you often hear politicians trying to just quell any rage that may be out there. And yet, as you were describing, like, this is very personal. The right, the president has been shot at. He has been shot, and there have been attempts on his life. This is somebody that they knew. Do you see the White House coming forward and saying, you know what, we should all just take a moment to calm the temperatures, or do you see the blame starting as soon as a suspect's in custody?
Well, look, I think a lot of those discussions are happening right now here at the White House. The lights are still on here in the West Wing. White House officials are still here trying to, gather more information here, as you were just reporting. Now there was conflicting information whether a person of interest was in custody. Now it appears that person of interest has been released, and there's a suspect still they're still searching for one. So this is still a very fluid situation. One thing that we have questions about and we haven't gotten an answer to is the president is still scheduled to head to New York tomorrow on the anniversary of 9/11. He's also scheduled to take part in a ceremony here at the Pentagon. As of now, there has been no change to the president's schedule, but it's unclear whether he might post on social media later tonight or exactly how he might react here. One more thing I will point out, Gotti, it is extremely significant, and I think it speaks to how big this moment is and what an influence Charlie Kirk had on this country, that we have now received written statements from all living presidents right now. President George W. Bush just releasing a statement a short time ago. We've already heard from Presidents Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and certainly across the political spectrum, we've been seeing an outpouring of condolences, but also, this denouncing political violence in any form, Gotti.
Yeah, Gabe Gutierrez at the White House, keeping an eye for us tonight. Gabe, thank you. And what happened today in Utah, it witnessed, as you've seen, by thousands and thousands of people, a lot of them college students at Utah Valley University. And as things unfolded, a lot of them were documenting what they were living through in real time, sharing what they saw.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
Okay. It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Heard the gunshot. I was the last one standing because I couldn't quite believe. I thought maybe it was a stunt. And then everybody fell to the ground. We all fell to the ground. I got pushed into some bushes. I stayed there. There was a lady with her elderly mom, and I said, is she okay?
Everybody kind of just didn't know what was going on at the moment. They were just sitting there like watching it, like, oh, did he really? I'm like, yo, dude, he got shot.
It did sound like it came from the right side of me, and I tried to look, but I was getting pushed back by the crowd.
Oh my God! Go run! Whoa. How close would you say you were to where he was speaking? Probably 20 feet, 20, 30 feet from where he was speaking. I actually personally saw him get shot. Everyone else was filming, and I was just sitting there just watching the debate, just seeing what was going on. And then I just immediately hear a pop, see him get shot in the neck, blood come out of him, and then he just hit the floor. And then I just take these guys, and we just run out of there.
You guys okay? Okay, love you. Be safe.
I'm only 18 years old. I've never experienced a lot of death in my life, but this is like the first time I've ever seen somebody die, and my heart was just racing. It was so scary.
The craziest part is like there was no checkpoints, nothing to get in here. Everyone was just able to walk in here. I'm like, I have my backpack. I'm like, if I wanted to, I could just bring a gun with me.
The fact that it ended so quickly, so fast in that way, it scared me because I felt like, what's going on? Like, what does this mean? What does this mean for like students like me? Like, we can't engage in dialogue without, or even come to a place where we can engage in dialogue. Absolutely did not expect it, wasn't prepared for it mentally and emotionally, even physically, still shaking. A lot of people were shaky. Like, seeing stuff happen that way was insane.
Yeah, no one should have to go through that. And let's bring in Jacqueline Aponte, a freshman at UVU, who is there today. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being with us. I'm so sorry you had to be there, and I'm glad you're safe. You were very close to the front of the stage there. I got to ask, what's your reaction knowing that the shooter is still out there after all the chaos that you saw?
Right. Thank you so much for having me. I think that it is scary, just knowing that it could have been one of our classmates, especially when UVU is supposed to be a place of safety. You know, there's a lot of people coming from a lot of diversity, so we don't know where people are coming from already in the first place. So to come to this place where we're expecting safety and to gain an education and just wonder whether or not the shooter is still out there, it's very scary, terrifying.
And they're saying that this was kind of a longer distance shot from a roof near where you were. Does that square with what you witnessed or what you heard?
Yes, it does. I was about 5 people away from being able to speak to Charlie. I was going to ask him a question, and I saw him with my own 2 eyes get shot in the neck. It was very traumatizing.
And you were there to ask a question. For those that are unfamiliar with how Charlie would run these things, anybody could stand in line, and then they could come up and they could have a conversation with him in front of everybody, right?
Right, that's correct. Yeah.
And how I mean, did it seem like there was a lot of tension at the event?
Honestly, no. There were a lot of people there who were Trump supporters. I wasn't sensing any tension at all. It came at a moment that was completely unexpected. I certainly didn't expect it, and I feel like everybody didn't as well. And I was standing there in shock when it happened. I honestly couldn't believe that it had actually happened. I, for a second, thought that it was fake.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that no one should have to go through, and to see these images of what all of those people witnessed, what his family is now going through, it is absolutely horrific. Jacqueline Aponte, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And we'll be right back after this break.
Breaking news tonight.
This is a massive storm affecting almost all of Florida.
Prepare for the worst, obviously, and hope for the best.
This soldier is scanning the sky for Russian drones.
With all these cuts, are you worried you're going to lose your farm?
There's no more smoke, no more fire, but there's still a danger. With these serious incidents we've had, is it the possibility of human error?
Here on Bourbon Street, the healing has begun.
As we know, through the great Louis Armstrong, music is a healer.
Every angle, every night.
Stay right here.
NBC Nightly News.
Hey, I'm Hallie, and we are coming on the air with fast-moving developments. Those inflation numbers, there's a lot in the weeds here. We don't love to live in the weeds, but Christine Romans does. She's joining us now to help us understand it. Egg prices spiking, as anybody who has eyeballs that has been to the grocery store has seen. What does this mean for people? Cheap AI. Talk to me like I'm me, and you know me. How big of a deal is this?
We've managed to arrange a beautiful full moon.
I get it.
Wouldn't do this for just anyone, Hallie.
I want you to just vibe in the moment.
Stay on top of breaking news and the biggest stories of the day with NBC News Daily.
Thanks for being with us. I'm Vicki Wynn. I'm Morgan Radford. I'm Sinclair Simone. And I'm Kate Snow.
Get in-depth reporting from across the country.
Flood-ravaged communities now facing another powerful storm.
And around the world.
People flocking to Sicily. Mount Etna is erupting.
And ways you can take care of your health.
What can people do when they're entering the doctor's office?
And your wallet.
That could save you hundreds of dollars a year.
NBC News Daily. Weekdays from 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern on NBC News Now.
Good to have you with us. I am Joe Fryer.
I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks so much for being here. New developments in the ongoing trade war between the United States and its closest trading partners.
The latest brutal weather that's impacting tens of millions of Americans.
If TikTok were to be sold, why would it be so difficult to maintain here?
A new global study that is sounding the alarm on obesity. What are the factors behind it?
Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams are waking up Earthside for the first time in 9 months.
Morning News Now. Streaming weekdays at 7.
And welcome back. We are continuing our coverage on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a conservative influencer who has been a major part of the MAGA movement since before President Trump's first term. And he was known for these town hall style debates on college campuses and Turning Point USA, which he co-founded back in 2012. And in those debates, he would often take questions or arguments from a line of people who would walk up to that microphone and then fire back with his own thoughts. And it was that anything can happen, that unscripted approach, that live battle over ideas with anyone, that was a huge part of his persona. Many saw he became the first guest when the governor of California launched his podcast here. So I want you to listen to what he said when Governor Gavin Newsom basically asked him for some political advice, because his answer resonated even more loudly today. You saw today, it just... it's a lot to process. Let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard to talk a little bit more about Charlie Kirk's influence. So Vaughn, I mean, you and I, we both watched his rise to prominence from the very beginning, a lot of that work happening in Arizona. Can you talk a little bit about how he got his start and how he became such a monumental figure in the MAGA movement?
Right. I think it's hard to think that he was just 31 years old, Gotti, because I know that you and I have been very familiar with him for a lot longer than that. If you go back all the way to 2012 is when he founded his organization, Turning Point USA. And 2016 is really when it started to take off more, and he rose to prominence latching on to the insurgent campaign of Donald Trump. And over the last decade, you have seen him take this, conservative youth organization and turn it into a mammoth of a political machine, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars, having thousands of chapters at colleges and universities around the country in 2024. And this was, for Charlie Kirk, I think that bite that you just played there with him sitting down for that podcast with Gavin Newsom is very relevant to the ultimate impact he has had on political discourse and ultimately the legacy of our politics, particularly when it means and when it reaches the younger generation, and ultimately what led to the election of Donald Trump in 2024.
And speaking of that, what can you tell us about his relationship with the president? We know that he was a regular at the White House. We know that he was friends with a lot of the people in the administration.
Right. It's important context that he wasn't in the government, but you could say he was just as influential on the outside, almost competing with the Republican National Committee for the actual Republican Party for relevance and influence. And that's because, I was on the campaign trail in 2022 back in May, and it was the Ohio Senate primary. And J.D. Vance was running against a couple other Republican candidates. And Charlie Kirk was out there for the last couple of days of the campaign by his side. And on that election night, he credited Charlie Kirk for helping him win that election. He was very close friends with J.D. Vance. Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk were close friends. I was actually flying back from an event today with Attorney General Pam Bondi in Illinois, and we learned of the shooting on the flight back. And she ended up not speaking with the press and quickly exited the plane. An aide to her describing him as a close friend to the Attorney General. And if you look across those that are not only in this cabinet, but in the higher ranks of the Republican Party here today, they had come across, most of them, Charlie Kirk, and also at the, the staffing level. Essentially, he had a deep footprint across, the MAGA aligned part of the Republican Party here. And I don't think we can understate enough what he meant to the future of the MAGA movement and the younger generation of today's Republican Party.
Yeah. I mean, that clip that we played from Gavin Newsom, I remember hearing it, and it just, that idea of dueling. I saw one of those in Arizona, and I was struck at the back and forth, and there's a lot that's lost in the quick clips that we often see on social media. But there was a lot of nuance in those things, and a lot of people that would go to those would find that nuance extremely appealing. That were on the other side of the political spectrum. I do wonder, though, going forward, what does the political legacy of Charlie Kirk and what does Turning Point become now after being struck by this very stark incidence of violence?
Right. I don't know. There are others that are very much engaged with Turning Point USA, and it's hard to fathom that the president and his allies will allow the organization to go by the wayside with Charlie Kirk's death. I think that in terms of our political debate, this happened on a college campus university. Well, literally people had the opportunity to take a mic, and he welcomed debating back and forth. And so this was not a situation where it was a question of the words being spoken, but it's about the impact on the actual spoken word. And understanding that political violence has now taken the life of Charlie Kirk. It took the life of the prominent Minnesota lawmaker in June, and it targeted the likes of Nancy Pelosi and Gretchen Whitmer and Steve Scalise and Gabby Giffords. There is a long history over the last 12 plus years now of political violence intended to silence the political discourse here in this country. And it is tough to know and understand where this is going. 1 year ago, the president of the United States was nearly assassinated, or the candidate to be the president was nearly assassinated. And there was calls for political discourse to become more civil. I can't contend that we have seen that play out. And here in 2025, a tragic episode here in which somebody has clearly shot and taken the life of a young prominent conservative.
Yeah, and no doubt not done any silencing because what we're about to see is going to be, I think, something that we have not seen before. Vaughn Hilliard, thank you so much for all of this.
Thanks,
Let's now bring in Chase Hughes and Logan Topman, who are students at Utah's Valley University. They were also at Charlie Kirk's event earlier today. Guys, thanks so much for being with me. I'm really sorry about everything that you guys have had to witness today. Let's start just with that one single shot. It is pretty wild that we still don't know who fired that shot. There is a suspect still outstanding, but we've started to hear and see some videos that are circulating that appear to possibly show a figure on a roof line. We've heard from investigators that they think that somebody was on a roof. Does that square with what you heard?
Logan? Well, I wasn't on the roof. I was on kind of a balcony that was in between where he was suspected to have been and where Charlie Kirk was. And when I heard the shot, I didn't quite process what it was in the beginning. And it sounded to come from behind me, which would have been approximately where the sound came from, is where they're suspecting it. So it would make sense based on where I was standing and where I heard
it. If I understand correctly, you were underneath, that bullet would have passed over your head to where Charlie was.
Maybe not directly over, but yes, I was more a little to the side, kind of a little more south than Charlie was, but not by too much.
Wow. And could you see him clearly from where you were?
I could. I was on the corner of a balcony and I was actually filming because I'm part of the student news team, their UV review, while I was filming. So I was able to see everything from where I was.